What is going on, guys? In today's video I will show you the top 3 best builds in Path of Exile 3.26. So in this guide I will give you a quick overview of each setup, then I will explain what are their pros and cons, then how do their key mechanics work, then what gear and items should you focus on, then also what are their core passive points and much more. If you're looking for any of these builds on the website for their path of building, then click my link in the description. And before we continue, thanks to U4GM. They are a pro website that provides POE 1 boosting, items and even currency with a cheap price and fast delivery. They have over 17,000 positive comments and this website is really worth a try. So make sure to use my discount code KAID for extra 6% off. The lightning arrow Deadeye is all about abusing projectile mechanics. When you shoot lightning arrow, it hits a target and then creates a chain lightning effect that zaps everything nearby. But because we are using returning projectiles, those arrows will come back and hit again, doubling our AoV and the damage output. So every time that you fire a single shot, you're hitting twice, chaining between mobs and lighting up the entire screen. It feels ridiculous and it works. We are scaling damage through the elemental attack damage, critical strike chance and the multiplier, and even the projectile modifiers. And because we are playing Deadeye, we get bonuses like Far Shot, which increases damage the further you are, and then Ricochet, which gives your projectiles extra chaining. With all of this stacked together, we end up shooting multiple projectiles, they all chain and they all come back, so you can clear entire packs before they even see that you are there. For bosses, we use artillery ballista totems. These shoot explosive arrows at range and do ton of damage, especially when scaled with our same projectile and elemental damage stats. This gives us fire and forget option that lets us dodge mechanics while our totems take care of the hard work. Defensively, we are not a phase tank build, so we're gonna rely on the movement speed, evasion, spell suppression and a distance. But if you play smart and position well, it feels very safe. You're rarely in melee range, and your flask and movement skills will give you a ton of uptime and control. Next up, let's go through the leveling process, and I will walk you through the key breakpoints as you go from Act 1 to maps. When you first start out at level 1, you will want to use the Rain of Arrows with the pierce support and added lightning damage. This gets you through the first few zones quickly and easily. You'll also pick up the Sniper's Mark and the movement skill like a dash or blink arrow to keep repositioning. And then once you hit about level 12, that's your first major shift, so swap into Lightning Arrow immediately. Link it with Mirage Archer, added lightning damage and lesser multiple projectiles if you can. You'll notice an instant increase in clear speed. The chain effect from the lightning arrow will start to kick in, even without the support from the Deadeye's nodes yet. Then from level 28 to around 55, your focus is on improving damage consistency. You can start using Artillery Ballista as your secondary setup, especially for the bosses. Link it with Ballista Totem support, elemental damage with the attacks, and added lightning. You can also pick up the Graze as your main aura for evasion and precision for flat accuracy and crit. You'll notice that in POB around level 60, we will switch to the mapping setup, where we can start specking into projectile and critical strike nodes. At this point, you should also start looking for a decent rare bow. You want something with a high attack speed and flat lightning damage. Even a ticket bow or spine bow will do. However, if you can't find one, then use the essences to roll in. By level 65, you will be ready to transition into the full Lightning Arrow Deadeye setup, with returning projectiles and the multi-shot clears. And now finally, let's talk about the endgame setup, which is your final form. You want to be running a high tier crafted bow, ideally a +2 to gems, high crit chance and a lightning damage. Your quiver should have a +1 arrow, crit multiplier and a flat lightning. You'll use a rare amulet and rings with a crit multi, elemental damage and resistances, and your body armor should be evasion based, with very high life or influence mods. Your jewels will include Lion's Fall near the claw cluster, maybe a Watcher's Eye with the precision mod, and multiple crit multi-rare jewels with life. And then on top of this, a large cluster jewel with projectile or elemental damage will round out your tree nicely. At this point you'll be firing 7 or more projectiles and all of them will be chaining and returning, and hitting for millions of DPS. The build will feel insane at this stage, and the bosses that gave you trouble earlier will start to melt in seconds. Again, to check the full detailed tree, skills and items, check my link for the path of building. And now finally, let's take a look at the gameplay. With the Lightning Arrow Deadeye, you're not taking hits, you're dodging, repositioning and letting your range and the clear speed do the heavy lifting. The core goal is to stay mobile while unleashing very high impact volleys from a distance. Thanks to the far shot mechanic, the farther away you are, the more damage you can deal. So don't stand on top of the enemies. Always be at mid to max screen distance when possible. In maps, clear speed is extremely fluid. Mirage Archer will help maintain pressure while you're repositioning, so you're always doing damage, even when dodging or looting. Then Herald of Ice if you're using it, as a great on-kill AoV to speed up the chain explosions. Then when bossing, Artillery Ballista will become your best friend. Drop 2 before or during the fights to keep the consistent damage going. Then manually attack with the Lightning Arrow to layer your damage. Don't forget to cast the Sniper's Mark, it significantly will boost your single target output. If you have Mark on hit gear, just make sure that it's working properly and refreshing during the long fights. Then the Blood Rage should be active at all times. It not only gives you frenzy charges, but also a bit of sustain through the life gain on hit, which becomes crucial when clearing dense maps. Just manage your chaos resistance, so degeneration does not become a liability. Keep up with your flasks at all times, especially the Jade, Quartz and the Diamond. These will provide evasion, pacing and spell suppression, as well as the crit reliability. Don't forget the freeze or bleed immunity on the flask for suffixes or the Jewel corruption. And then finally, your rear defenses are evasion, suppression and positioning, so stay light on your feet. I usually like to fire, then move and then fire again. If you stand still for too long, especially in the red maps, then you will get deleted. So mastering that flow makes the build feel buttery smooth and extremely rewarding to play. So, the Poison SRS Necromancer is a minion build that focuses on scaling poison damage through rapidly summoning spirits. You will summon these flaming skulls, and instead of relying on a raw hit damage, we will convert their attacks into poison using the golden rule and a chance to poison mechanics. Because you are summoning multiple spirits per second, poison stacks ramp up incredibly fast and the bosses simply melt. The entire strategy centers around flooding enemies with these spirits and applying layers of poison over time. Each skull is expandable, meaning that they don't need to survive or deal massive hits, they just need to apply poison, and we make sure they do that dozens of times per second. This build has smooth map clear, incredible boss potential, and surprisingly strong defenses. With Grace and Determination auras, block chance from the Aegis aura, and a solid life pool, you're tankier than the most summoners. And since the minions do all the heavy lifting, you get to focus on movement, positioning and staying alive. Now let's start with our leveling setup, and right from the start we will go with the summoning raging spirits and the minion damage. In the early acts you're not poisoning yet, you're just running basic minion damage setup, so add melee splash to help with the pack clearing, and unleash as soon as it's available to make the summoning smoother. At level 18 start to use the chance to poison, and make sure to keep leveling the Withering Step, Despair and the Herald of Agony, even if you're not using them, as they will become important very soon. Then in Act 3 pick up Desecrate and Offering skills, and by Act 5 you will start feeling a big power bump, as Unleash and a chance to poison will come online fully. Then by level 50 or so, start to swapping fully into the poison scaling. You'll need to equip the Golden Rule Jewel. It causes poison on you to mirror onto enemies, and start picking up minion poison and the chaos damage on your passive tree. And also start getting ready, as from this point, the build will start to ramp up super hard. And now finally, let's take a look at the endgame setup. You should now be using a +2 wand or +1 chaos, +1 minion wand with a high cast speed. If you're feeling fancy, then go for trigger wand with multiple skill automation. Your helmet should be a +2 to SRS helm, with life and resistances. Best case scenario is to craft one with the Essence of Insanity base to get minion movement speed, which will make your skulls fly to targets even faster. Then cluster jewels are also essential here, so you want 2 medium clusters with a minion deal additional chaos damage. And you can even go for a large cluster with a Call to Slaughter or Feasting Friends for more damage. Don't forget the Unholy Might uptime, as it adds a ton of chaos DPS. Then the Aegis Aurora will remain the best in slot, but if you prefer spell suppression focused setup, then you could experiment with a rare shield or +1 to minion shields. Both of them will work as long as you can cap or block suppression. Your curse setup should now be Despair plus the Temporal Chains, which are both automated. This gives longer poison duration and better uptime on your chaos scaling. Use the Essence support that scales their effect if you want to go full curse build. You're also aiming for the level 28 to 30 SRS with Empower 4, Helmet Enhanced and the gem level scaling. This absolutely shreds any boss in the game, especially combined with the Withering stacks from the Withering Step or utility skeletons. In short, by the endgame, this build is a green cloud of death. You flood the screen with poison spirits that stack damage instantly and melt everything in your path. It feels amazing and stays safe the whole way through. And now finally, let's go over the gameplay. For boss fights, the opener is simple and effective, so dash in, use the Withering Step to apply debuffs, then pop the wall skeletons for the extra pressure, and then cast Despair, and then start rapidly summoning the Raging Spirits. Your role is to stay mobile, keep the flask up, and avoid incoming mechanics, while the minions will handle all the damage. You don't need to stand still, you move, summon, repossession, and let the stacking poison do the work. It's a fast-paced loop that rewards awareness and a rhythm. In maps, the playstyle is even smoother. You dash through the packs, cast few SRS and keep moving. Poison ticks after the hit, so enemies will often die shortly after the contact, which allows you to keep momentum without waiting for kills. This makes the build feel fast and safe, especially with how aggressively your minions seek out the targets. What really sets this build apart is its consistency in the high juice content. Poison does not care about the monster's life scaling, it just stacks and kills. So if you're in Delirium, Legion or the Blight, then this build holds up extremely well. You will apply poison fast, stack damage over time and then reposition, before the targets reach you. Casting SRS is instant, so you're rarely locked in place. With a high summon rate and good gear scaling, you can keep multiple spirits up while moving. Then your support tools like the Wall Skeletons, Withering Step and Despair will layer into your damage and control, without overcomplicating the rotation. It feels fluid and rewarding, and best of all, this build scales well without needing insane gear. Gem levels, modest rares, and proper support links will carry all of the weight. And once you learn the rhythm, dash, summon, repeat, it becomes a smooth and reliable league starter that transitions into early, high endgame content. Let's kick things off with an overview of the Volcanic Fissure of the Snaking build. This setup shines with a unique playstyle, focusing on tankiness while delivering very high damage output. The core mechanic revolves around the Warcries, which enhances your slams and creates molten fissures that deal very significant fire damage. As you progress, this build allows you to sustain your defensives through the endurance charges, which provides additional damage reduction. The combination of tankiness and range makes you incredibly versatile in both solo and group play. The build's ability to generate explosive eruptions from the fissures will ensure that you will be dealing with multiple enemies effectively, which makes this perfect for both leveling and the endgame content. Next, let's move over to leveling. From level 1 to 67, you will want to focus on optimizing your gear and skills. Early on, prioritize items that provide physical damage increases and survivability through the life and resistances. As you progress, gear like the KaidGames Supremacy will become essential due to its high physical damage and the synergy with the build. For your skill gems, begin with the Thunder and transition into the Volcanic Fissure of the Snaking as soon as you can. Make sure to link your damage skills with the Warcry support gems to maximize your damage output. Additionally, using Life Leech support gem will help you to sustain life during the tough fights. Most of the players will go straight to the path of building, so I won't waste your time explaining basic things. But in short, to follow this build, simply select your current progression path down here. For example, we will take level 38 to 67, so we select that here, then click on the skills, and then select the same 38 to 67 right here. And then finally go to the items and select the leveling gear, and here everything will be simply shown to you. From level 1 to 12, this is how your tree will look like. Then as for skills, we go with the Ground Slam as an active skill, and then for supports we get the Ruthless and the Chance to Bleed, then get Blood and Sand and the Frost Blink with no supports. Then next we get the War Banner with Intimidating Cry, then next we have Leap Slam with Decoy Totem, and lastly we use the Shield Charge. Then from level 12 to 23, this is how your tree will look like. And then for skills we use Southern with Close Combat and Rage. Next we get the Blood and Sand with the War Banner and the Herald of the Ash. Next we have the Frost Blink and Intimidating Cry with no supports. Then we use the Leap Slam with the faster attacks. And lastly we get the Blood Rage with no supports. Next we got level 23 to 38, and this is how your tree will look like. And then for skills, here we will use the Sunburn with the Close Combat, melee physical damage and rage. Then next we got Blood and Sand with the War Banner and the Herald of the Ash. Then Intimidating Cry with Auto Exertion and the Seismic Cry. Then Frost Blink with no supports. Then also the Leap Slam with the faster attacks. And then finally the Blood Rage with no supports. And now last but not least, let's dive into the endgame build. At this stage, your focus should shift towards maximizing your damage and survivability against the toughest bosses and the map encounters. You should aim to have a well-rounded build, featuring very high damage output combined with significant defenses. Utilize Echoes of Creation for that extra damage boost, but be cautious of its life cost, so make sure that your defenses can handle it. I recommend to implement the spell suppression to reduce incoming spell damage further, and keep your Warcries on the cooldown to maintain those vital endurance charges. In the endgame, the build can handle the pinnacle bosses and the most difficult maps, which makes this very versatile choice for any player. So let's take a quick glance at our tree, and this is how it should look like. Then next we have endgame skills, and most of the things we want to keep the same as in the early maps version, we just have very few slight changes. But then lastly and most importantly, in the item section, here is the place where we can either way make or break the build. So for weapon set 1 we have the Vol Axe, while for weapon set 2 we got the Camo's Primacy. Then next we have the helmet called Echoes of Creation. Then for body armor we got the Pain Hide. Then for gloves we want the Ripped Nails. Then for boots get the Ghoul March. Then for amulet we want the Defiance of Destiny. Then for ring 1 get Dire Grip, while for ring 2 we want the Empyrean Twirl. Then for belt get the Stygian Vice, while for the Abyssal we want the Murderous Eye Javel. And then lastly we have our passive 3 sockets, and for them we mainly want to get 1 Timeless Javel, 5 Clustered Javels and 1 Crimson Javel, 1 Prismatic Javel and 1 Cobalt Javel. Now let's take a moment to discuss the gameplay mechanics. Effective use of your Warcries and maintaining your endurance charges will ensure that you're dealing maximum damage while staying alive. Always be on the lookout for opportunities to utilize your fiery slams in the conjunction with the fissures. The visual clarity of your surroundings can sometimes be a challenge due to the molten fissures, so managing your positioning and awareness will be key. Remember, your goal is to create chaos on the battlefield while keeping yourself safe from the onslaught of the enemies. But besides that, this build is quite simple, just plug and play.